Hello, everyone. My name is Katy of Greenland Quilter, and I have a guest tonight. Her name is Leana. Is it Leana or Leana?
Leana.
Leana. Okay. Now we'll get her saying her name right. And she is a pastry queen farm adventures. And I'm
Correct.
just waiting to get up with her so we can just, sew, and I get to interview you while we're sewing and playing around. And I think I need to switch the chat to the other side of this screen. So if I look
I
like I'm
see.
looking up, if it looks like I'm looking up, it's because I'm looking at the monitor behind my laptop.
I don't see any comments, but I'm sure that's something I have to do on my end, and I don't even know where to begin with that.
Yeah, I don't know how you turn your chats on your end if you're not using a laptop.
Oh, here.
So hello, Deb, Candace, and Donnell, and Pat is here so far. There might be others I haven't seen that hasn't said anything in the channel. So welcome, everybody. I will be doing an interview with Leana about her and her channel, and once we get done with most of the questions, we'll be sewing at the same time. So if you want to introduce yourself, I'm going to pin you or spotlight you here, and go ahead and tell them a little bit about yourself, and then we'll start asking questions.
All right. So I am Leana Nieves, and I live in the Catskills of New York, the state of New York, not the city. I'm about 3.5 hours kind of north of New York City in traffic, because it's really 90 miles, but it's New York. And I have a channel called Pastry Queens Farm Adventures. As you can see, I'm sewing outside. Behind me, you'll hear a river every so often in the birdies. I do live in the mountains. This is my home for 3/4 of the year. My other home is Puerto Rico. So anytime I go to Puerto Rico, I take everyone with me to Puerto Rico, and we salsa dance and eat and sew, of course. What else about my channel? I make some of the sample quilts for Fabric Cafe. This happens to be not their newest book, but the one previous to the new one. And I work doing that. I also work in a school district as staff. And so I work with little kiddos between kindergarten and third. I do not teach in a classroom anymore. I am a Culinary Institute of America graduate, and I've actually taught there as well for a bit on weekends. Let's see, what else about myself? Well, I love to cook, sew, and pretty much do outdoorsy things. Oh, plus I have chickens. I don't have the chickens out today. Some of you who follow me always kind of see the chickens in the background, but they're put away today because we had a fox attack and I lost some of my chickens. We're not going to discuss that. It broke my heart. But and we had babies hatch at school. The first graders hatched my eggs, so I'll be posting pictures of that. Let's see, what else? Not much of else. I pretty much, just travel, sew, and teach and cook and work. That's my life.
That's awesome. So what I'm going to do is just ask questions and let you answer them. If anyone in the chat has a question they would like to ask Leana, make sure you put a heart in front of your question so that I can see it, just in case the channel gets to moving too much. Right now it's slow, but still it will be easy if you stuck a heart in front of it. That way I don't miss the questions, because that's one of the problems I have is I miss questions because the channel gets to moving too much. So while we're waiting, let me say hi to Linda Faust. She just came in. And Deb, I think, is already here. Yeah, so I already said hi to them. Okay, so my first question is, who influenced you to learn to sew?
So my grandmother, when I used to go in the summers to Puerto Rico, was a seamstress. She sewed what they called batas, which are like house coats, and they would come and deliver them at her house. And she had a sewing studio of her own, and she sewed them. They would come and pick up, and it was a constant cycle. And she would have little scraps And so I would go in there and take all those little scraps and make little like blankets and little outfits for my Barbies. And that's how I started sewing, actually. And then as I was older, I actually spent a year in Colonial Williamsburg, right in the middle of town. And on my days off, because at that time I was working at a restaurant, and you know, there was sewing going on, quilting going on. It was Colonial Williamsburg. Everybody was dressed in their little outfits, and I would go over and visit the quilt shops, and I started taking, I don't know if they were classes, but I just went in and I started sewing and buying stuff and just sitting and sewing with these ladies, and then I just got more and more involved.
When did you begin to piece quilts, and how old were you when you finished your first quilt?
I'm sorry, when did I start piecing quilts? Is that what you?
Yeah, when did you begin to piece quilts, and what age were you when you finished your first quilt?
Oh, 18. I was 18. No, let's say 19, because I probably just turned 19 when I went to Williamsburg. Because I went to school at the Culinary Institute, and it's a 2-year, well, back then it was a 2-year chef program. And in the middle of your 2 years, you did something called an externship. So that's where I did my externship at the Trellis restaurant. So I would have had to been 19 because I turned 18. My 18th birthday is when I started school there. So I had to be 19. And yes, I finished my first quilt at 19, and that was by hand. I didn't have a sewing machine.
Oh, okay. So by hand, wow.
Yep.
I think I missed somebody. Hi, Pat. Sorry, I didn't mean to miss you. And hi, Nancy. Wow,
Yeah,
by hand, that's something.
Yeah, the way they taught me was they took muslin, and it was like foundation piecing on muslin. And I did a heart, and I still have that heart quilt. And then I just hand did it and flipped it over, did the whole ironing, and then I tied it. So when I put it together, we just did the simple ties on the 4 corners of the patches.
Oh, that's really cool. Super cool.
I can't show it to you because my daughter has it. It's, you know, has been loved, repaired a million times, and her cat absolutely loves it. My grand kitty.
Uh-oh. Sucking on it all the time?
Oh my goodness, you can't take that thing away from the cat. You get very angry at you.
Yeah, it's something that happens from their childhood, I guess. I don't know. Kitty time.
Yeah.
So overall you've at least been sewing what, 20 years?
You're so kind. 30 plus years. Yes.
Well, I have want to some people are fanatics about not being aged out.
It's all right. Yeah.
Okay, hello, Tammy. Tammy just came in the door too. Louise says, Leana, did they hand sew the clothes and costumes in Williamsburg like they would have done in the 16 to 1700s?
That's a good question. I absolutely have no idea. I really don't, because when I had off, which wasn't often, because in a restaurant, especially that one, which was a 5-star restaurant back then, I mean, it may still be, you know, it was fast paced. So I only had a small bulk of time, and really they would just be sitting outside sewing, and then they would sell bags of like scrap, which I bought, you know, and then I just sit out there and sew. So I never saw anyone make any costumes. I did see them though dip lots of candles.
Oh, cool.
And that was done the old-fashioned way.
That's awesome. What are your favorite types of fabric?
Oh, I love cotton. I guess
particular fabric lines.
Oh, fabric lines. I think I'm going dark, and I'm not sure why. Hold on, let me get this light. So fabric lines. Well, I'm right now currently in this Tula Pink situation. Did that make it better or worse?
It looks okay.
Okay, maybe it's just me. I've been sewing with Tula Pink since I just got a whole bunch and loving that. I really love every fabric. I'm a fabricaholic, and I call myself the curator of fabric. I just bought a bunch of batiks. That's like my next thing I want to sew, and I have sewn with batiks, quite a bit. But you know, I don't know. I love them all. There isn't anything I don't like to sew with. I don't like to sew with jersey knit. Oh, I don't like that at all.
Yeah. Stretchy stuff is hard to sew.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a favorite quilt designer who designs either fabric or patterns that well, you mentioned Tula Pink, but is there anyone else that makes patterns or something that you're a fan of?
Okay, so patterns. I've never made a Tula Pink pattern. I've only used her fabric. I sew a lot of Lori Holt. I have a lot of Lori Holt books, and I've sewn a lot of Lori Holt. So she's definitely on my list. And then being that I do so many what I call pass it forward quilts, which are charity quilts or whatever you want to call them, donation quilts, I came across Fabric Cafe. So those, when I came across this company and I started making them for donation, oh my goodness, I just fell in love of how easy, their patterns are, how quick they come together, and how you can make them look more difficult than they really are. And how you can deconstruct a pattern, because I deconstruct their patterns all the time using my scraps and directional fabric. As a matter of fact, that's what I'm doing today. But mostly Lori Holt is mostly what I've sewn. Of course, Fat Quarter Shop with all their free patterns.
Okay.
I can't think of, anyone else in particular.
So having said that, you probably make more traditional than modern quilts?
Correct. I do, because Fabric Cafe, a lot of their stuff is traditional, but yet they have come into the modern realm of things, of having books that are more modern. Like the Gold Bold book is a modern book. So, I have been doing more modern, but when I first started, yes, absolutely, it was traditional. I don't know what you consider Lori Holt, because she's like,
I think traditional is what she does.
You think, I don't know, with all the shapes and
Yeah,
she's got the scarecrows and the witches and all the fruits and vegetables, and so I don't know what you classify that.
Considered modern to have fruit and stuff in it?
Say that again. Let me see.
If you use fruit in a quilt, does that make it more modern than versus traditional?
Good question. I lately someone told me that one of the things that a modern quilt is that it doesn't have borders on it. It's like one of the new trending things for modern quilts. I don't know if that answers the question or not. I really don't know how to tell a modern from traditional. I just sew what I like. Put it that way. Yeah. And I sew with fabric I like.
That makes good sense.
I mean, sometimes you can't control what you have to sew when you sample, but I will say Fran is pretty good with her fabric. So there hasn't been any fabric that I've like, not really. So
Patch says Lori Holt is old school to her.
It's old school what?
It's old school to her.
Oh, it's old school. It is. It's vintage. Like because her fabric is vintage, I feel like everything that you sew of hers has that vintage vibe, because I do use a lot of Lori Holt fabric when I sew with Lori Holt patterns. Yeah. I mean, I guess you could really like go crazy with like her scarecrow or witch and like use some really modern funky fabric, and it would give it a different vibe.
That's possible. Pat says never saw a modern Lori Holt quilt before.
True. So it's true. I mean, yeah, unless you put that witch that she has in like a gold lame dress. I mean, yes, I agree.
Okay, as a quilter, is there anything you have learned that you wish someone would have told you in the beginning of your journey into quilting?
Yes, but there's no rules. Because when I first started quilting, everything was a rule. There was a rule for this, a rule for that, and a rule for this, and you can't do that. And oh my gosh, there was so many rules. I was like, at one point, I was actually, after I made that first quilt, I was not turned off, but I was like, eh. So like, I didn't do it as much. And then I graduated the culinary, and then I had my children very young. I graduated, and then I had my child like shortly after. And of course, I made them all blankets, but I hadn't sewn for like probably a year or a year and a half due to all the rules. And then Simply Quilts, I think, started coming on air, and I watched a lot of that and did a lot of like quilts mimicking what they did. And then I moved back to New York in early 2000 and started taking classes at a local quilt store that no longer exists. And oh my gosh, the rules those ladies had were intense to the point of like no return. It was like, you can't do it that way. And oh my goodness. So it actually turned me off, and I never really took many classes from them. And I just did my own thing and decided I'm just a rule breaker. So that's what I wish someone would have told me, because then I think I would have quilted more and wouldn't have had periods where I stopped because of a class I took, or because, you know, owners would say you can't buy that fabric with that fabric and do that. So yeah, I would say I wish someone told me just do what pleases you and makes you happy, and there are no rules.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think that if more people were doing things outside of their safety net, you might come up with some masterpieces by doing that.
I break all kinds of rules all the time, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I do too. So yeah. Oh, let's see here. Luane says modern quilting is characterized by minimalist designs, abstract shapes, and vibrant colors that create fresh aesthetic. And Pat says, "Hey, Luane, you got that from Google." Luane says, "Guilty." Guilty as charged.
And I am. I'm starting to, because I'm not comfortable. I haven't done a lot of modern quilts. I'm dabbling in that with curved piecing and exactly what Luane said, you know, where you have a lot of space and maybe a half circle here or a quarter circle there. There's actually a pattern in American Patchwork. It was either 2 issues ago or this latest one. And it's a lot of blue with a bird and an abstract flower using circles. So I want to tackle that.
Cool. Tell me about what you envisioned in the beginning of your quilt creation. Did you have a vision back then, and how has it evolved over time?
Well, back then I was super introvert, very introvert. You would nobody would say that now, but I really was at 18, 19. And so I didn't really necessarily had a vision for quilting. I guess I'm an old soul, so I didn't fit in with the college kids because I wasn't into partying and keg parties and drinking after class and doing other things that college kids do. So I kind of kept to myself. And so when I went on externship and there was a bunch of ladies and, you know, and youthful age, right? Sitting out there, I picked it up and I didn't really have a vision. It was a way for me to pass time and learn something new that wasn't dealing with kids my age, I guess. I don't know how to explain it, because I also lived in a house in Williamsburg that the owner kept for extern students, and basically it's a bunch of college students that are going to some kind of culinary college, and so they work there and then they sleep in this extern house. And sometimes it was like Animal House, and that's just wasn't me. So it was a way for me to get out. And yeah, so back then I didn't have a vision. It was just for keep me occupied. I didn't have a vision, honestly, for quilting and where to go with it until COVID.
Until COVID?
Until COVID. I mean, I've always quilted before that. I have tons of quilts, but like when COVID hit, that's when everything kicked into gear. And I'm like, okay, this is it. I am going to find quilters out there, and new ones and old ones and advanced ones and younger ones. And I'm going to tell them there's no rules, and just do what makes you happy. And that was it, really. It was. And that's what I did. And I still am out there to do that. I just want to bring everybody the joy. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who, like, just regular, says, oh, you quilt? I tried that once, but there was too many of it. And it broke my heart. It really did.
Yeah,
I had a friend.
Even cry.
Yeah, I had a friend, a very good friend, and she loves to sew, and she sews all kinds of things, just not quilts.
Yeah.
And I said, well, let's do a quilt together. I stayed at her house last year for a week. And she's like, no, that's not for me. And sure enough, I pulled out one of my Fabric Cafe books and I said, we're doing this. I said, she goes, I don't like it. There's too much. I go, no, I think that you just had a bad experience. And she had so much fun. We had so much fun doing it together. She said, I had no idea it could be this fun, and it wasn't as stressful as I thought it was going to be.
Yep. That's something that we should really, as many quilters as there is out there, help the newer ones who, sometimes, get a bad taste in their mouth and they decide maybe they shouldn't be doing it after all. And that's the ones we need to help.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this lady is young at heart, but not so young in age. And, she still, spent all those years. She's like, I wasted all those years not quilting, thinking it was a little, it's a much. So she's enjoying it now. So it's really any age right now.
Yeah. You and it's not a loss that you didn't do it when you think you should have done it.
Right. And I mean, I just visited her last week because she's my friend who I stayed with while my daughter was while she was sick, and she was so excited to show me all her things, and I just made me so happy.
I can't imagine it did. All right. Okay, the next question I have is, what do you like best about making a quilt, and what do you love doing the most? Piecing, quilting, binding, quilting?
Okay, binding is a no. I do it, but that's probably my least favorite. Quilting, I have a love-hate relationship with quilting. I actually own a long arm, a 19-inch throat, and I don't know why I procrastinate to put a quilt on there, but boy, do I procrastinate. But the minute I put it on there and I have it all ready to go, I'm putting it. So I got to figure out why. I think it's the loading. I'm not quite sure. And I have the red snappers and all that kind of stuff to make things easier. So I would say quilting is second, but I love piecing. Oh my goodness, I love piecing because to me, it's a puzzle and I love doing puzzles. So it's just, that's how I am. I'm a puzzler. And so I love that part. And of course, my number one favorite is going shopping. Shopping for fabric that I need and shopping for fabric that I don't need. Yeah, that's it. So number one, shopping. Number two, piecing. 3, quilting, and binding would be 4.
That's cool. Hi, June Hanson. Hello, Rhonda. Welcome. Any of y'all got any questions you want to ask? please ask them and I'll get her to answer them. Hang on one second. I need to press this real quick. So I made another color. Here's this one. Oh, wait. I need to unpin you so they can see it. Hold on a minute.
I was going to say, I don't see you, but I thought it was something I did.
No, I did it. Here we go. Okay.
You are.
Here's another color one.
Ooh.
So
it's really beautiful.
It's real easy to put together. And I'm going to do it, in case some people didn't see this last night. I'm doing it in the order that the fat quarter was put together. So it's going to end up having rainbows of color.
Those are so pretty.
Yep, they're super cute. I saw this at QuiltCon and I'm like, oh, this will make a great sew along. Hi, Aisha. Is it Aisha or Isha or Aisha?
Aisha is on. I mean, I can't see the chat.
Yeah, AYSHA.
Yes,
Aisha?
Yes, that's Aisha Homemade Crafts.
Yeah, handmade items, it says.
Oh, handmade items, yes.
Okay. All right, so I'm sorry to butcher her name too terribly. Hi, Dawn of Witchcraft.
Yes, Dawn is here.
All
I'm
right,
going to say hi to you all. Just know I'm not ignoring anyone. I don't see the chat and I don't have another phone or laptop up to read them. So I apologize.
And I'm going to share Leana's channel with you guys. Please go over and subscribe if you're not subscribed to her channel. Help her out. The idea of all of this is so all the small channels can also be seen. So that's what we're trying to do right now. No one
and
has
everyone.
Oh, wait. Luane does. How many of the 3-yard quilts have you made so far?
Luane, I have made so many 3-yard quilts. I think I sleep and make them in my sleep. So almost all of them, if not once, but twice. I haven't done the ones in the fat quarter books. There's 2 fat quarter. Oh, that's a lie. I did one in the 1 fat quarter book. So those 2 books, I've done only 1, and each one has 8 patterns. So 15 I didn't do. And the first modern book that they issued out, Make It Modern, is it called? I think maybe. No, maybe it's not Make It Modern. I don't know. Their very first modern book, I don't think I made any of those. But definitely most of them. Like on this Go Bold, I made 4 for the actual book. And I'm making modern art right now. So there's 1 that I haven't made in this book.
Oh, okay.
But you have to understand that when I make the sample for them, I do that particular pattern twice. The first time I make it using my stash because I'm currently working on one of their books for the future. And so I make 1 time with my stash, and then I make the one that's going in the book.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. What is your favorite type of quilt to make? Do you like making appliques or piece? You said piece, but
yeah, no applique. I mean,
any of your out of all the piece quilts you made, was there one that really stood out for you?
Well, right now I have a Lori Holt quilt that I'm in the process of making, and it's ginormous. It's not finished yet. It's actually put away because I ran out of fabric. I ordered the fabric, then I went to Puerto Rico, and now it's sitting there, and I saw it the other day. That actually I enjoyed making. And what I did is it wasn't anything she designed. All the blocks are her design, you know, the different blocks, but I put it together using, what is it, 2 or 3 of her books. I took blocks from here and there, and then I pieced them into this quilt. One day you'll see it because I really want to quilt that. So it doesn't have a name. It's just a random quilt using a lot of Lori Holt blocks. I hope
So
that makes sense.
Yep, it does.
Okay.
Denise wants to know if you could tell them what the origin of your channel name is.
Okay, so Pastry Queen. So I was an executive pastry chef in Dallas for about 8.5 years. And I needed email had come out. Email had come out, and we had a dial up back in the day and hear either a busy signal or a go signal. And Yahoo was a big thing. And all of a sudden I had to make a Yahoo account. And so everyone's like, well, you're the queen of pastries. So I started using Pastry Queen. So everybody kind of knew me as Pastry Queen. And then it morphed into an LLC here because when I was doing cooking classes, I was the Pastry Queen's cooking class. And then I said, well, you know what? I really need to stick to Pastry Queen at this point. And then so Pastry Queen is just something that I've been known for a long time. And then the farm is because I have a chicken farm back here. That's what I call it. It's really crazily huge back here. There's 2 giant coops. Well, for me, they're giant. We're not talking like Purdue, coops. I'm not that big, but it was like a homesteading kind of coop and morphed into like a palace and mansion. So we have 2 of those. And so we call this our little chicken farm. What does he call it? Cluckers. My honey calls it Cluckers. I don't know what he calls it. I think it's Cluckers Farm or something like that. And so that's where the farm came from. And then adventures is because I'm always on an adventure. And I've always been like that. Always. Yeah. I used to travel for 6 years back and forth between New York and Massachusetts. Since I was little, my parents always went from New York City to upstate New York. We weekend all the time. And then as an adult, I weekend from upstate to Massachusetts. And then, of course, Puerto Rico and Canada and wherever I can go, I will go. So that's where the adventure came from.
That's awesome. So Lil Wayne says, I confess I never knew email was free back when it first came out. That's funny, Lil Wayne.
Yep.
Yahoo,
yep.
Which used to be GeoCities.
I mean, it was AOL. Wasn't it just AOL and Yahoo? Oh, no. And Roadrunner.
And Roadrunner and a couple of other ones.
I don't think anybody uses Roadrunner anymore. Or maybe they do.
I've had my Yahoo account since back when it was GeoCities.
Yeah. When people ask me, how long have you had your cell phone number? I said, listen, I had my cell phone number when it was when cell phones went from a bag to a giant phone with a big antenna.
So it's like a sat phone?
We always had a bag phone because my, or beepers and all that because my dad was in the medical field. But when I was in high school, my dad, because I was taking the train into Manhattan, was like, you have to have a cell phone. So not many people had cell phones back in the day. No, so that's how old my number is.
Yeah, they were too expensive back then.
Like I had someone from high school and they go, I can't believe you still have that phone number. I've had like 8 numbers since I've had my cell phone.
Yep, some people switch them quite often. Okay, so
I have a fun fact. I have a fun fact about cell phones, and maybe you will remember. Cell phones back in my high school days were sold at like Bloomingdale's and Macy's and Bergdorf Goodman when you bought cosmetics and perfume.
Yep.
They used to give you the phone because the service was so much. They used to give you the phone. Now it's the other way around.
Yep. Wayne says his first email was Hotmail. Yeah, I forgot about Hotmail. I just stopped using Hotmail a long time ago, though. And Candace said she had a pager in high school. Why would you need a pager in high school?
A lot of my friends had pagers. Like I said, I was probably one of the only ones really who had a cell phone. Maybe a handful of others, but not many. Then again, I went to an all-girls Catholic school my entire life until I went to college.
Oh, okay. It took me a while to switch to a cell phone. I think cell phones have been out for 3 years before I finally broke down and got one. Because I feel like it's a leash. I still think it's a leash. Okay.
I don't know. I know that my dad had gotten the cell phone from whatever, back then, pharmaceuticals used to bring you all kinds of stuff. They used to like entice you with all kinds of stuff. So I just know he showed up with a cell phone one day and said, this is what you have to have. It has to, I couldn't use it to call. No, that was very well known. Like it wasn't for me to just use. That was only for me to use as an absolute emergency.
Yep. You don't want to be sitting on it running those minutes up.
No.
So I'm wondering about your ethnic background. You mentioned you go to Puerto Rico, so you're Puerto Rican, correct?
Yes, I'm 100% Puerto Rican.
So can you tell me if your ethnic background has played a part in how you create your quilts?
On how I make my quilts?
Yeah.
No, because no one in Puerto Rico makes quilts. Quilting is not a thing in Puerto Rico. So everyone in Puerto Rico, when I come to Puerto Rico and they see my stuff, because I sew outside and they'll pass and I'll hang stuff up, they are just amazed. It doesn't play a part because it's not anything that I was introduced to or knew about until I was literally in Virginia. I had never seen a quilt. We didn't have them on our beds at home. So as far as picking fabrics, I don't think it's any different than anybody else.
Okay. Let's see here. What is the hardest thing about creating a quilt from your perspective?
What's the hardest? Hold on. Honey, can you shut that off? I can't hear. Thank you. I'm sorry. What was that?
What is the hardest thing about creating a quilt from your perspective?
The hardest thing about creating a quilt from my perspective. So the hardest thing is sometimes making sure especially if you're designing a quilt, making sure all the blocks will connect with each other. So let's say if you have a 9.5-inch block and now you want to put something else there that is 6.5 inch, and now you have to put whatever doing the quilting math could be a little challenging.
Yeah. Okay, so in the chat, people are saying, I didn't get a cell phone until December 2022. Friends code sends messages calling the next town over was distance mostly. I don't know what that's talking. Must be for a pager or something. Robin says 22 watching and only 16 thumbs up. Yeah, y'all hit that thumbs up, please.
Right, we got to give Katie the thumbs up.
Yeah,
that's right.
And don't forget to go over to Leana's channel. And if you're not subscribed to her channel, go there and subscribe to hers also. I just posted. And
if you're on here because you saw me this morning, make sure you click subscribe on Katie's.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for that. Yes. Okay. Let me see. Kelly says I only got a cell in 2019 when I started the travel agent thing. Hubby had one before because he was going back and forth for work, and then for his own customers after he started his own business. And Pat says, what? So I'm not sure what the what question's for. Judy, I got my first cell phone in 1989 and had the same phone number for the past 25 years. I know a few people that do.
Yep. That's when I think that's right when they came out, right? 89? Yeah. I was thinking that. I was thinking they came out either in 88 or 89, maybe 87.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, because I graduated high school in 90, what, 2?
No
92,
one in Jamaica
91,
makes quilts either, not
91,
that I
92.
know of anyway, says Janice. I discovered quilting after getting my machine in 2019, so there was that. Okay, sorry about
That's right.
that. Hello, Diane. Welcome, welcome. She says quilting math, gotta love it.
Yeah, it's the quilting math.
Hello, Robert. How you doing? Okay, so we're all caught up. Kelly says, I'm good, Deb. Have a nice day with mom and my sister. So everybody. And then Judy says she worked at AT&T then. Cool. So lots of good information there. Okay, so can you tell us in a best guess how many quilts you have made or do you have?
Way too many.
Well, we're not judging on numbers.
I know.
You've been doing this for 30 plus years, so
right. And so a lot
and
of
if
them,
you made one for every, just think of it. If you made one quilt every year, that would have been 30 quilts.
right. And I, like, just this week, and these weren't my own quilts. I have made 1, 2. So I did 2 of the patterns. That's 4, 5, 6 lap size quilts this week. Granted, a lot of these tops, remember, they go to somewhere else. I don't keep them. I make quite a bit. I do. And I've never counted at all. I will say.
You've never even been tempted to count them?
No. I have
Wow.
I have 3 giant buckets from my quilts before, like, COVID, and before COVID. Like, COVID, everything kicked into gear, and like I have not been away from my machine. But pre-COVID, I still had 3 buckets that I had created, and that wasn't sewing a lot, right? Because I had 3 kids and I was being a mom and had to go here and there and everywhere. But I haven't quilted those yet. So those are on my list of quilts to quilt. Yeah, I don't know, quite a bit. I guess I should pull out and count.
You haven't.
I mean, I also sold a lot, and I live near Woodstock, New York. So I was every year in the early 2000s for like 5 years, I was in a gallery during Christmas time, and I sold a lot there. And this year I was put in 2 galleries and sold a lot there. So I couldn't even go back to count, and I don't take pictures of everything.
It would be interesting to know what your inventory count is, and
I'm afraid, actually.
I wouldn't be afraid. I would be proud. Wear it or own it.
That's true.
You own
I
it.
mean, this is my way. For quilting is a lot of things to a lot of people. It's a lot of different things to a lot of people. For me, this is like mental health. This is the way I unwind. This is the way I work through things, how I deal with stress, how to, like, when I have to decide, like, this is out of my control. So I'm going to come over here and quilt where this is in my control and forget about that. I don't know what that's called, but I do a lot of that when things are not on the up and up.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that it's helped their mental health a lot.
Yeah.
And that's hobbies are a great thing for all the times we experience things that we have trouble trying to work through, and doing a hobby helps you with that. At least I think that it does.
And I mean, a lot of it also is I just enjoy doing it. And I like to work on things that may be a little bit more difficult and take a lot longer. But then there are times I've got to whip out a Fabric Cafe quilt, not because I need it to do something with them, but just to get that instant gratification because their quilts go by so quickly. And sometimes when you're working on a long project, instead of giving up and making it a UFO, I just go over and do one of these quilts for charity. And then I go back to the UFO or at that point, WIP, is that what they call it? A WIP, work in progress?
Work in
Yeah.
progress.
Yeah.
So Luane says the first commercially available handheld mobile phone was the Motorola Dynatac 8000X, was released in '83 and was priced at $3,995 in 1984, which is the equivalent of $11,716 in 2023. That's funny.
So I had the Motorola phone. I don't know if it was the first Motorola phone, but that was the maker of the phone that my dad gave me, or my parents gave me. Again, they did not purchase it. It was something that was gifted to my father because back in the day, before there was healthcare, right? Before there was insurance companies, my dad was in medicine before there was healthcare or health insurance. So pharmaceuticals used to just bring you everything. I mean, they also used to give him a lot of medicine because he did a lot of community health for people who couldn't afford a doctor. Let's just put it this way. He'd come home from the practice he worked in, and then there'd be a line waiting for him to come home for the people in the community who couldn't afford to go to the practice.
Yeah.
So he did a lot of that kind of community work. I think that's where I get my pass it forward from, because he always had a crying baby. We had him in the bathtub. I remember as a child getting the ice, because back then they put ice in the kids, right? In the little tubby, in the kitchen sink. I mean, strangers. So back then the pharmaceutical would give my dad lots of samples that don't exist anymore and gifts. I don't know if that was, I know it's not legal now, but that's how it used to be back in the 70s and 80s.
I'm sure they found loopholes around that too.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so Kelly says Leana, sorry. I'll get that
That's
right.
all right. A lot of people call me Leana. I'm used to it, especially down in South.
Yeah, I'm from the South, so yeah, that's probably why I say it like that. Kelly says, Leana, you are the most prolific quilt producer on YouTube, except for maybe Tiffany. Then Pat says, yes, Luane, exactly. Our first computer was over 3,000. And Kelly says, anyone remember microwaves being around 2,000 back in the 80s? I do. That's why we didn't have one. Kelly says, and the dang things weighed a ton too. Yes, they did. Candace says, a TV fell on me when I was a little kid, almost killed me. Oh no. Janice says, me too, Leana. I quilt for my mental health. That's why I don't let it become stressful. Pat says, okay, lunch is over. Back to quilting. I'm lurking though. Okay. And hi, Mike. How are you? Pat says, hello, Mike. Joy says, hello to everybody else. Kelly says, I need to go work on some more blocks for the round robin collab semi-secret thing. And Janice says, hi, Joy. Mike says hi to Pat and Joy. So now we're caught up.
Yeah.
Now that's my next question.
Okay.
Do you have anyone besides yourself, is there anyone else in your family making quilts?
Nope. And I can't even get, my daughter doesn't even, well, she says she doesn't care for it, but she's made some rag quilts and does like doing those. So it would only be my daughter. All my kids know how to sew, and all my kids have made a quilt of their own when they were younger. Oh, cool. But nobody's stuck to it.
That's probably because they have other things to do right now. But maybe that gift will, materialize later in their lives when they're, raising families of their own.
Yeah.
That could change. I never thought I'd see the day of one of my kids picking up my gardening, because I'm a master gardener. And you know, that's been in their lives, their whole lives. Mom's been outside digging in the dirt all the time, you know. And the youngest one has been gotten addicted to Hoya plants, and she's got quite a collection of them going on right now. So it makes me happy when I see that going on.
I actually just when my mom was cleaning out, we found my Commodore 64. I was about ready to throw it in the trash when my honey's like, oh, no, you can't throw that in the trash. I'm sure that's worth something. It's like almost new in the box. I still have it's right downstairs. I do wonder, I should look that up. Huh? I did use it, but and I even went to classes for it. And back then it's funny, I actually was just recently was explaining to the kids. They're like, oh, turn it on. I go, I don't remember how to use it. I said, I just remember you had to draw clouds and then you had to do little sticks and this and that. I was explaining it all to them. They go, Mom, you were doing coding. And if you remembered how to do it now, you could make a lot of money doing that. It was like, I didn't understand it then. I don't understand it now. So it's lightly used because my dad bought it for me so that I wasn't the best student because I was always doing artistic things instead of doing like school things. Because, right? You know, I was always dabbling in the arts. And so he decided that he was going to get me this computer to help me out and like school better. And then when I realized what I had to do to get 6 times 7 on that Commodore 64, I said, Dad, just give me the calculator. The calculator is much faster because back then you had to literally do a whole sentence for 6 and then a whole sentence for times and then a whole you know, it was, do you remember that? Or did you not play with the first generation computers?
No, my first computer was in 1994 and it was a Windows computer.
Yeah, well, I soon found out that the calculator is easier. I don't know why someone thinks that computers is going to be the generation, our future, because who wants to sit there and do all this? Who knew, right? I thought it was going to be a big flop, that was never going to, like, I don't know. And so I used the calculator, and back then we had word processors. I mean, we had a typewriter, but then I think word processors came out. So I had used that.
Yeah, I skipped word processor. I went straight from a typewriter to a computer.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I do remember playing like one video game on the Commodore 64, and it was like, I think it was like some kind of ball going across this little ping pong thing. That's it. That's all I remember. And then soon after that, Atari came out. And then I didn't have an Atari game because that wasn't educational. My father said no to that, but my cousin who lived upstairs, he had an Atari game, and I'd go upstairs.
Hey, Teresa Louise. She came in to say hi, but she's going to go get something to eat and rest because she just came off her live with me. Hey, Andrea. Let's see who else came in here. I didn't see come in here. Hello, so Terry, if I didn't catch you before. Yep, that's all. Now, Pat says, I remember those computers. I had to take a class to do our business books. I did not like it at all.
No, it was ridiculous. I'm telling you, it was the craziest thing. Yeah, it was really crazy.
Sounds like it. I don't know. I didn't get a computer until I was in my second year of college.
And when you got your computer, right, it was the kind of computer you would just tell it, and you didn't have to like put in this whole thing and code it yourself.
No, it was a regular Windows generated operating system.
Yeah, well, we didn't have that.
I don't remember which Windows it was, but it was the first operating system after DOS.
Okay.
because it's
Yeah, whatever. I don't know
the
what
computer
Commodore
started
64
out
is.
on-
Lorraine, look that up. Look up Commodore
started
64.
it started out on a lot of computers that just had DOS on it, but when Gates came out with that first operating system, I want to say that I got the one that was the number 2, not the first version.
I didn't touch a computer after Commodore 64.
Windows 95 was what it was called.
95 was the first time I got a computer after Commodore 64. Yeah. Because I said after Commodore 64, this is gonna go like nobody's gonna do this. This is not easier. It's more work.
Yeah.
So 95 was when
Windows
when
95.
I got a computer.
I don't remember what it was called. I don't remember what it was called before it was Windows 95 though.
And then that's when I got my email address. Yeah.
And Windows 98 came out. I really liked that one. And then they did Windows XP. Then there was one in between them. One was a Millennium, and I think the Millennium came in between 98 and XP.
Yeah, and in college, when we did papers and stuff, which wasn't many, right? Because I went to a culinary college, but we still had some classes that needed papers and research and stuff. We used microfiche to find everything in the library.
Oh, I know how to do that.
Yeah.
I think libraries still have microfiche.
Yes, they do. And, one day I would love to go like to Puerto Rico, and well, I go to Puerto Rico, but I would love to find out where like their microfiche stuff is, because I watch Finding Your Roots and I am obsessed with that show, and I would love to like figure some stuff out, because I do not know much of anything of my family background other than that when my daughter did her genetic, whatever it is she did on Ancestry or one of them, it did come back that our line is from the indigenous people of Puerto Rico.
Cool.
But I don't know what transpired between there. So.
Okay, I have another question for you.
Sure.
What is your go-to sewing machine?
So my go-to sewing machine right of now is my Baby Lock Aria that you see in my sewing room.
Okay.
Then what you see that I'm using right now is a Janome Sewist 500. This is my travel machine. And my first long arm was a Foth Grand Quilter Hobby, I think is a Hobby 1200. Yeah.
Who is that by again?
Foth.
Oh, I never heard of that one.
Yeah. Oh, you know what I had? What I absolutely loved before any of those three was when I moved to New York, and I was sewing on a Singer that a door-to-door salesman sold to me, because that's how you bought sewing machines back in the days. And he sold encyclopedias and Singer sewing machines, so I bought a sewing machine. I didn't buy a vacuum from him, but when I moved back to New York, I got an Elna Diva, which was like first generation computerized sewing machine. I love that thing. I sewed on that thing until COVID. I think after COVID, I killed it. I killed it during COVID because I sewed so much. And you can't get parts or anything. I remember being in tears, and my honey fixed it. He did something. He took like some kind of headphone wires and did something with the foot, and it kind of worked, but then it it died after COVID, and I ended up with these 3 machines. This one I bought at a yard sale. The lady only used it once for like $20.
Wow.
And the FOP Grand Quilter long arm that was on an Inspire frame, I bought right after COVID or during COVID, whatever you want to classify that period where we could go out a little. Hold on. Oh, it's my son. Sorry. There's a lot of work happening at our house. And I bought that thing for, I think, $500, the whole setup.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the baby lock aria, no, I bought that at a quilt shop that does machines, but I bought it as a new to me machine, previously owned.
So it was a used machine.
I've never owned a new machine. The only new machine I ever owned was that Singer sewing machine that the door-to-door salesman sold to me, where he would come every week and I would give him money. And then when it was paid halfway, I think he gave me the sewing machine and I signed something so that if I don't pay, he had to repossess it or something like that. And then I just paid it off. That was my only new sewing machine. And honestly, I kind of like the previously loved sewing machines. They got some character to them sometimes.
I know my mom had a Singer that she was sewing on it when I was real young because she was making us dresses. And then I was making dresses with her sewing machine when I was a teenager. So I
actually know where my Singer is. I don't own it anymore, but my girlfriend at the time when I moved back home, my girlfriend from high school, she used to come up and she was sew with me. I taught her how to sew and she made her first quilt and she loved it so much. So when I got my Elna, I sold her my Singer. And so she has it. She still has it. I told her, don't ever sell it. If you're going to sell it back to me.
Yeah. So we got lots of talking here. Let me see here. Okay. I'm backtracking a little bit here because we missed some stuff. Okay. Andrea says, my first computer used punch cards. Keyboarding came much later. Laugh out loud. Pat says, I remember those computers. I had to take a class to do our business books. I did not like it at all. Wayne says, I took computer math as a junior in high school, barely passed the class as writing step-by-step computer code was hard on my brain. Goes for STE1 to finish. The last part of that sentence I don't understand. Terry says she worked on DOS. Terry said, I had a 64 and a VIC-20. Don't know what those are. Denise says, yeah, DOS was CD. And then Terry says, remember WordPerfect? Yes, I do. Andrea says, hi, Deb, Janice, and everyone else. Denise, are you enjoying that new machine? I watched your birthday video earlier. Teresa says, we had a 64. Yep, it was DOS. Pat says, computers these days are much easier to teach yourself how to use. Back then, it was impossible. Joy T says, when Bid Apple came out. I don't know what that means either. Denise says, hi, Andrea. Yes, I am. I need to figure out that 1/4 inch. Terry says, Windows 2.0. Joy says, dial-up was 1998. Maybe, yeah, it was before 1998. I don't remember when we finally started. I don't know. I think I went to wireless when I moved out in the middle of nowhere. Teresa says, IBM OS2. Mike says, oh my God, microfiche. Janice says, going down memory lane, Leana. Joy says, laugh out loud, I remember microfiche. Andrea says, I think I saw a 1/4 inch foot when you showed the side of the box. Joan Reed says, hello, all. We had the 64 and the VIC-20. Also, remember the dial-ups that took forever? Yes, we remember, all right. Wayne says, everyone remember the panic we were going to have? as all computers were going to shut down due to Y2K, I wasn't panicking because, as always, I think when people say stuff like that, they're lying. So I didn't fall apart like so many people did. Judy says, I think Apple came out around the late 70s, probably. Janice says, yes, there is a 1/4 inch foot, but the needle position changes, so I am learning how that works. Joy says, I still have an Apple computer that has the smallest screen. Wow. Denise says, there is a 1/4 inch mark on the machine, but because of the needle position, it's not accurate. Pat says, Denise, what machine did you get? Wayne says to Janice, I set it on number 1 and used the J foot for my 1/4 inch. Denise says, a brother CS7205 is what she's gotten. And then she said, thanks to Wayne. Pat says, oh, nice. Andrea says, I had a brother computerized machine, but I wore it out on all the charity quilts I made. I had that thing since my grandkids were little, and they are in their mid-20s now. Denise says, that works, Wayne, thanks. Terry says, I love all my vintage machines. And then Terry says, the BIC-20 was a Commodore. My dad, rest in peace, used a tape deck attached to it by wire to it to type up his recipes. Wow, that's funny. That's all of the talk. Okay, so we'll ask you the next question. Do you have any other hobbies that you also participate in?
Dancing. I love to salsa dance, merengue, any kind of Latin dancing, and also country line dancing. I love country line dancing. Well, obviously I cook, so that's, I don't know if that's a hobby or considered my job, but I love doing it. So I guess if the true hobby other than my sewing would be dancing.
Okay. Do you have, let me see, when did you start your YouTube channel and what were your goals at the beginning and how has that changed over time?
So I technically put my YouTube channel up the week of right before the International Houston Festival or International Quilt Festival in Houston. So that was what, November, the first week of November. So I put it up, but I didn't do anything with it. I just put it up because I was told since I was going there as a presenter, I should have that and I should have Instagram. Because I had Facebook. I had a Facebook page for a long time that had, you know, it was called something else and I renamed it. But so I did that for the International Quilt Festival. And then I came back home and I met all these quilt artists and manufacturers and this and that. And they say, you need to be on YouTube and a content creator so that you can get some free stuff so that you can sew and show your love of sewing. And so I then came home, waited a second, wasn't sure if I was going to do this. And then I had decided maybe the 3rd week of November, I'd start doing it. I was kind of doing stuff on Facebook, but like that's when I did my channel for real. And but I never really got into the Instagram. I have an Instagram, but I don't ever post anything, and I don't know. I don't have time for it.
That's interesting information you just gave us. Robin says, hi, Joy. How are you? I'm good, working on hexes and lurking. Andrea says, I have Donnell's first sewing machine. I use her every day and love her. I named her Nellie after my great-grandmother who taught me to quilt when I was 8. Okay, so we're caught up on that. All right. Do you have anything else that you would like to share with us about yourself? Because then after this, we're going to start rapid fire.
Not really. I mean, you know, I apologize. I know there is some background noise. There's a cleanup from storms that we had last month happening. I don't really have much other than that I'm enjoying my YouTube channel and all of you people out there that I can't see your comments, but I'm enjoying everyone's channel. I learned something from everyone, something I didn't know or something I needed to know, or just, you know, I've made a lot of contacts, and I love watching lives when I can. That's pretty much it.
Okay. Janice says, heading out for a walk with hubby. Have a good night, everyone. And
Good night, Janice.
yeah. Okay. So now we're gonna play rapid fire.
Okay.
So I'm gonna ask a question and you have to think on your feet.
Okay.
The first question is, what 5 skills should a beginner quilter learn about to help them become good quilters as they learn?
5 things. Okay, sorry, I'm moving this so closer so I can hear you. Well, the first thing, and I don't necessarily think it's a rule, but you should definitely figure out your 1/4 inch. That's like, I guess that if there was a rule, that may be the rule you want to follow, is the 1/4 inch. Though I will say at the beginning, I wasn't doing a 1/4 inch, and my stuff still came together because my seams were, even though they may have not been a 1/4 inch, they were the same per se.
You stayed consistent throughout the thing. You stayed consistent throughout the whole thing.
I stayed consistent, correct, through the whole thing. So that's the first thing. Second thing, believe it or not, changing your machine makes a difference. So when I was sewing on this machine, when I was in Massachusetts last week, and I brought back some quilts, I knew that I could make all the blocks with this machine, but then when I put it together, and then I could use my other machine. So your best bet is always to use the same machine, or if you have to switch machines for whatever reason, make sure your blocks, and this is not a rule, I just find this is what helps me out. I find that if you make at least the blocks, when you put it together, it shouldn't be a problem. Yeah. Because the blocks are already made and all the size they're supposed to be. That's the second one. So that's the second one. About the third one. Third one is pick fabric you love. If you don't love your fabric, you're not going to want to quilt, or you're going to lose interest, or whatever it may be. I think that's my opinion. So love what you sew, love your fabric, enjoy it, pet it, look at it, you know, enjoy your fabric. I find it much more pleasant. Third, that's the third. So my fourth thing is, if you do not like what you are sewing, you have my permission and your own permission. You have your own permission to stop it, cut your losses, and make it whatever. So if it's a size of a mug rug, it becomes a mug rug. If it's size of a baby's quilt, it becomes a baby's quilt. And if you decide you don't want it to be anything, then you decide it doesn't want to be anything and pass it off to someone else. And then the fifth thing is, wow, I mean, you know, because I say there's no rules. There's no rules. That's going to be the fifth thing. There's no rules.
Okay. Those are all great pieces of information. So now suggest 5 tools that every beginner quilt maker should start with, and why. All right, these pins right here. I love these pins, but pins are very personal to me. I will say, pins are a personal item. Just because I love these pins, and I don't even know the name of them right now, but because I love it doesn't mean you'll love it. For me, these pins work. So find pins that you like and stick to them. Because I have 2 sets of pins I like. I like those, and then I like these. Then pick something that you like for your pins. So it could be your favorite pin cushion or one of these magnetic things. I just happen to like this device. So pins and a pin holder of your choice.
I love this. This is my blade saver. I do a lot of chain piecing, especially in Fabric Cafe patterns. So I don't know if you saw me before, but these were chained and then I cut them with this. So that's my second thing. Third thing is I have a stripology ruler. I've used many other brands of strip rulers, but I do find the difference. So I love my stripology ruler. So that's number 3. Of course, you need a good sewing machine. So, oh, you said Notion, right?
I said tools.
Oh, tool. Okay. Well, would you consider a sewing machine tool or that's just a given?
That's a tool.
Okay, so sewing machine of your choice. I happen to
As
like
long as
my
you don't go
baby.
suggest they pay $5,000 for one right up front.
No. Everything, like I told you, everything I owned was pre-owned except for the one singer, and I think it was like $120.
Yeah.
It wasn't much. Yeah. I mean, you can use a donated sewing machine, whatever your price range is. So that I have my pins, my blade saver. I use this. Oh, Jack the Ripper. So
We need to come up with a new name for that ripper.
there
Seriously.
is so many. So yeah, I don't really call mine Jack the Ripper, but everybody seems to call it Jack. I don't know what to call it. So there's so many types of seam rippers, and honestly, my favorite one is the old-fashioned clover one. It's like a brown handle. I don't have it with me at this moment. And my newest love, believe it or not, for the seam ripper is an eyebrow shaper, an electric eyebrow shaper from Marshall's.
Oh, that's
Love
funny.
that.
Wow.
I love that thing. And an electric, not the one that is a blade that you do yourself, because sometimes you can nick the fabric. I find that the electric one doesn't nick the fabric.
Oh, cool.
And it's a $5 tool. $5. Sometimes, yeah, you've seen me show it up. It's pink. I'm not in my sewing room, so I can't show it to you. So that's a tool that I love. And of course, I love this rotary cutter. And again, this is my preference, not everyone's preference. I have never tried that one that rolls like on the side thing. I love this because it's comfort. So that when I squeeze this, the blade comes out, but when I release it, it's disengaged.
Yeah.
So I like that a lot. I love the feature of that. So this is a Olfa. And I'm going to go to the 6, which is an iron. You do not have to have the $200 iron. I happen to have a Panasonic cordless, which is okay. It was gifted to me from the Houston show. And it just doesn't get as hot as I like. I actually am using something called a Salton, Salton. My daughter gave it to me. It was her college iron. That sucker gets hot and the steam comes out fabulous. And I think it's like a $20 iron. You don't have to go crazy. Oof.
That was
Flies are coming up.
Okay. So the next one is, what advice could you give concerning how to take care of quilts to make them last a long time?
So I will pass some information that was passed to me. And it was useful information. I mean, of course, when it was given to me, it was very strict and you have to. And, you know, if you don't do it that way, you're going to pay for it. So I'm going to give it to you as is another tool for you to use. So you could take your quilt and you could fold it, even though it leaves creases. You could also roll it and stick it in a pillowcase to store. This, I'm talking about like ones that you're going to keep maybe to hand down, or, you know, I don't know. Right now I have loads of them in different armoires and anywhere I could fit them at this point because there's so many in the house. But like if you have like it's a normal amount of quilts, yeah, you could stick them. Like I have, believe it or not, my ex-husband's family's quilts. because even though we got divorced, nobody in their family wanted anything to do with quilting or quilts or anything. And they said, well, you can keep them because we know that you will take care of them. And I have them then for the kids, my kids. So, and those, that's how I keep them. I keep them in my linen closet rolled up in a pillowcase.
That's cool. Okay. What advice would you give to a beginner quilter?
Have fun and just know that when you're feeling overwhelmed because someone has told you there's so many rules, take a step back and say, does this make sense to me? It's not making sense to me. So let me see if I could figure out a way that this would make sense to me instead of giving up. Also, peruse YouTube. There are so many of us content creators, and I guarantee you, we do not all do the same exact thing. We absolutely do not do the same thing. So a lot of us do what feels right to us. And so you may say, I like the way Katy makes her half square triangles, but I like the way Leana makes her flying geese. But you know, Tiffany has actually, she just put out a thing for flying geese. So let's say Tiffany made flying geese. But, you know, Leana has a good thing for flip and stitch. I mean, you know, you don't have to just follow one person and say, okay, this is the way to do it. Just look around and see what's good to you. Because if it doesn't feel right to you, you're not going to enjoy it.
Yep. That's pretty much how it'll work. Okay, so now do you have any advice that you would like to share with all quilters of all skill sets?
Enjoy what you love in quilting. Enjoy the whole process. And if you at any point in your lifetime that you don't enjoy the process, step away. I've done it. I've stepped away from quilting numerous times within my 30. I didn't quilt 30 years solid every day. There were periods of years that I didn't quilt. You know, I think the most I've been without quilting was maybe a year. You know, maybe I only quilted once that year. I mean, just step away. You know, life happens. So just know that quilting is always there for you when you need it.
Yep.
And when you have time.
So now I have asked all the questions.
All right.
So let me see what's been said in the channel. Sylvia says, hi, Katy and Leana. All right. Robin says, I get close to 100. They must be talking about their hexies. Okay. Let me see. Denise says that you should do a tutorial using that eyebrow shaper you mentioned.
I thought I did, but maybe I didn't. Okay, that's a good one because I'm not sure if I did. So you're probably right. I know I've shown it through lives, but a formal one would be good. That's a great idea.
Yep. Joyce says, I'm so far behind on many projects. Yeah, aren't we all? Joan says, bye, I'll have to leave. I'll watch the rest of the replay. Have a great rest of the week. You too. Tessa says, I finally made it. Hi, Tessa. Elaine says, Leana, how do you wash and dry your quilts? I hand wash mine and dry in the dryer on low heat.
So I know I'm going to get the quilt police on me about this because I'm sure I'm saying the wrong thing. But this is what I do. I stick it in the washing machine on a light cycle with a lot of those shout makes them, what are they called? Color catchers. And the new thing that I've added is, so I stick the quilt in the washing machine. I have a front loader. I put the color catchers in, and then on the top with the soap, I put Dawn dish soap, like the platinum version dish soap in there. And I actually just wash it. So that's the newest way I'm washing quilts. And I will tell you why I come up with this method. A friend of mine used a quilt that her aunt gave her for her daughter on a picnic, and the red ran just because she hadn't even washed it yet. It was, you know, she was using it on the picnic, and it was and it was Elizabeth Hartman pattern. And I mean, it was beautiful. It was not an easy quilt to put together. And so she brought it to me. She says, can you rescue it? And I did a lot of research, and I found out that Dawn has the additive Synthropol. Is that it? It's some kind of additive that all the quilters use to wash their quilts with. Do you know what I'm talking about, Katie?
Yeah, yep. You can also
So,
use white vinegar.
okay, so I went ahead. Actually, I did use white vinegar too. Now that you said it. So yeah, I put the Dawn dish soap, the vinegar. Oh, I did end up using OxyClean. She gave me 2 quilts that were running. One of them was a lot of white background and red, and I did put in a little OxyClean to see, because she says you can't ruin it then more than it is already. And I tell you, that thing came out of there like brand new. She didn't even know what to. Yeah, I was actually shocked myself. So now that is my way. If there's no bleeding, like it's, you know, if it's not something that's already been washed and bled, if I'm washing it brand new, it's just a little bit of Dawn soap and a lot of those color catchers. And I mean a lot, 5 or 6, maybe even 7, depending on how big.
Should wash in cold water too.
Yeah. You know what? I did it. So I found this method when I was Googling it, and it said to use hot water for whatever reason. So I did. I will agree with you though, Katie. I did use cold water when I did a new one, but the one that was damaged, I actually did hot. They said you needed hot to lift the dye out.
Well, that's what make colors bleed is hot water.
I know. So I thought it was strange, but and that was using OxyClean, because they said the OxyClean needed the hot water to activate.
Interesting.
I don't know. I know that hers was heavily damaged, and I just know that I followed the directions that Google gave, which was Dawn, color catchers, and hot water, and it worked for hers. It came out, both of them did that. But like when I just wash my quilts afterwards, again, I just use, like you said, cold, the light cycle, a lot of color catchers, and then I just dry it in my dryer.
Yeah, I don't think I would put a batik quilt in hot water as a first wash.
And so, and you would know better than me, because I made one batik quilt and I haven't washed it yet.
I only go by what my mother said, and she used to say that if you bought a dress or a skirt or a shirt and it was a bright red color or it was denim, you don't wash your denim with other clothes on the first couple of times, because
correct,
number one, denim bleeds. Secondly, you wash it in cold water and the release of ink is less in cold water than it is in hot water.
So yeah, I've done the jean thing. Totally. I was taught that whole jean thing. I mean, I haven't, knock on this, I haven't had issues. Huh?
Unless you want it to bleed on purpose.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I never had dabbled in damaged quilts until just recently, and that's what helped that quilt. And as far as mine, like I said, it was just cold water or lukewarm water and those color catchers. But I have, like I said, I'm not a batik person, so I'm just getting into using them. I really like using them, but I've never really, I think I've washed quilts with them because I did a lot of scrap quilting in my earlier quilting. And I mean, I guess I never had a problem. I've been lucky.
Yep. I haven't had any bleeding yet, but that don't mean it won't happen.
Exactly.
And I have a batik quilt top right now that's needing quilting, but it has a batik white background and the rest of it's all batiks and really vibrant colors. And I have concerns about it bleeding onto that white, but I'm not going, it'll be a long time before I wash it anyway.
I don't know if you, my rooster's out.
Uh-oh.
So my honey's home, and like I said, they were in their house because of the fox, but he's outside watching them. So I think they're excited because they're outside now. We're watching them like a hawk. Plus, we turned on the electric fence.
Foxes get hungry enough, they'll come closer.
Yeah. Yeah, this is, see, they're used to free ranging. So they normally start free ranging first thing when the sun is up until the nighttime. But I think we lost 4 or 5 hens, and he really takes care of them all. So I don't know the exact number he does. But he was super careful with them that they only go out in their outdoor yard. And so they have the outside, like the whole property, but they also have an outdoor yard.
Do you have a livestock guardian dog out there with them?
I have a what?
Do you have a livestock guardian dog out there with them?
No, we don't have, I'm allergic to cats and dogs, so we don't have a dog or a cat. I would love to have one. Maybe when I move to Puerto Rico, when I retire, I'll have a dog, because having an animal there is different than having an animal here. It's too cold to have an animal live outside. I don't believe in, that's my personal beliefs. Not that if anybody does it, please don't take offense. It's just me personally. It gets really cold out here. I wouldn't want my dog to be living outside. But in Puerto Rico, everything there is like, I can't explain it. Everything is like tile and whatnot. So if they're in the house, you can like spray. Because what I'm allergic to is the dander of a animal.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think the upkeep is easier there. Because I visit people's homes who have dogs that I don't have a problem. And then I'll visit people's homes here and it's like I'm suffocating. So, there's lots of like, I don't know, carpeting, all that kind of stuff that hold those things.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to have chickens when I'm in Puerto Rico. That's a big Puerto Rican thing. Everybody has chickens. Actually, chickens run wild in Puerto Rico. They're all over the place, in the beach, everywhere.
So they probably lay their eggs wherever they want to also.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was there. I was there last month. They were laying the eggs in my mom's Jeep on the passengers. And
Oh
the
my
passengers.
God.
Yep.
That's too funny.
They would fly up. I took a picture and I put it, I don't know if I put it on my Facebook or my community tab. You'll see there's a hen got up on the window, and I had just gotten there. And I said, oh, look, the hen is welcoming me home. And yeah, and then it was laying its eggs there.
That's hilarious.
And the thing is, it's so hot in Puerto Rico that they incubate themselves. It's not like here where at school we had an incubator going and things were turning. No, over there, when a hen drops an egg, wherever it is, it's at the optimal temperature because it's warm in Puerto Rico and it's somewhat humid. So that's why I think we have so many wild chickens.
Probably because and maybe they have no natural predators other than human beings anyway.
Well, there's snakes and iguanas, I guess, but yeah.
So, wait a minute. Excuse me. Sylvia says, does it say something? I don't know what a trimmer is. She must be talking about your trimmer.
If you get a second, I'll go right. It's my studio is right here. I can go get it and show you
Go
guys.
ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go right ahead. Be happy. I'll continue again. Ah, Mona's here. Hello, Mona. I just now saw that you were here. How's it going? Hope you're having a good day.
So here is the basic clover. That's my
Oh, wait a
basic
minute.
clover.
Yeah, hold on a minute. Let me pin you. Here we go.
Okay, so that's my basic clover that I use sometimes. And then this is, you could get this at Marshall's or Burlington Coat Factory. And if you notice, there's like a switch here. And there's like this little thing here. Does it cut you?
Oh,
And then I bought this, and this too big and fat and
yeah.
clunky, and it's really not that sharp. But I still keep it because this part is the best. This, you know, once you rip it with this, you just go onto the seam and you just kind of go like this. So here, I'll rip this seam because this is not. So sometimes what I'll do is we'll take my clover and start with the first stitch, open it up. So you see it's opened up. And then I will come here, turn this on. Let's see if I could. And I just get it open enough so that I can have my 2 fingers and I just tap it. Oh, look at me. My 2 fingers, and then I just tap it.
Oh, okay.
And it just cuts it immediately. Done. And then I have this one piece in the back, which is like a long string I pull out. There you go. And then I will just use this and kind of, and it's all gone and clean. And same thing here. I just tap this little rubber spot. And I've used tape, you know, you can use tape, a lint roller, but I do find this is better. So I would say this is called Seam Fix. I would just buy this just for these little newbie parts, honestly. You may, you know, maybe you'll find that the seam ripper is good in there. I wasn't impressed with it, but it's worth the money just to get this. And believe it or not, this costs a whole lot more than this because this was $5.99. And I think I found one on clearance the other day for $3.99.
Aisha's asking, what does vinegar do to the quilt? It pulls out any dye that might be running around loose. And the other thing that it does, believe it or not, is when you wash your clothes and then you rinse your clothes, unless you do like 3 rinse cycles on your clothes, soap residue gets left on the fabric, and white vinegar pulls that out. Especially
look at me.
like if you've it really works well when you've overloaded your wash machine with soap and can't get it out. White vinegar makes it dissipate.
Yes.
It does.
And also, if you happen to get, I get fabric, like people send me fabric prior to YouTube. People who didn't know what to do with their granny's fabric sometimes would be left at my doorstep. And because I was so frugal and really couldn't afford a lot of fabric when I had my 3 kids, sometimes it has a little smell to it, you know, just the nature of it. So if you wash it in vinegar, it kind of takes it all out.
It takes all the excess things that shouldn't be left on fabric out.
Correct.
and I bet you didn't know this either. You know the fabric softener sheets that we put in our dryer? Yes, it makes our clothes soft, but it leaves residue on fabric, especially things like soft silk blankets or minky. You should not use dryer sheets in with your minky if you're using the dryer.
Go ahead. Sorry. And we don't see you, Katie, because I'm still on featured, but yeah, start the grill. It's dinner time here in the household. They wanted to remind me
Oh yeah,
they're
we're
waving the
almost there to
barbecue wand.
Yeah.
He's gonna grill. I mean, my sides, I love my Instapot, so I'm making some Puerto Rican kidney beans in the Instapot using dried beans, and then I have my rice cooker going. So yeah, he's fine. He can do the meat. He'll let me know. I'm hungry. And so for those you hear about Honey, that was Honey who walked past.
Sylvia asked me, is your raspberry block carry a same color in each block? No, they're going to be different colors. And I'm making 2 of each of the same color out of the one strip. So right now I have 22 made, but technically there's only 11 different colors. But as I go through there, I will make the other colors as well. Okay, so here's the deal, you guys. If you want to ask any more questions to Leana, you need to do it now or forever hold your peace, because she needs to jet on out of here. And then I'm going to shut down the live after she leaves. So any questions for Leana, please ask them now. Joy T wants to know if Marshalls always stocks those, Leana.
So I don't know. I mean, you know, the whole deal was I was shopping at Marshalls and I was in there. I don't know why. I don't remember what I was doing in that particular area. And I looked at this and it looked like something I seen at the Houston International Quilt Festival thing that I told you I went to in November, because this is a relatively new tool for me. And well, that tool was like $30. So I said, boy, this looks like something similar to it. I don't know if they have them all the time, but I know that I see them every so often, Marshalls. Yeah, though I've nicked my fabric.
These cost more than your little eyebrow thing, I think.
Yeah.
This came from a quilt shop. And right, I struggle with it. I've gotten aggravated and not even bother with it now.
Well, me too. I have cut fabric with that. So that's why I did this. And so I think that's what I saw at the International Quilt Festival, what you had there, which was a razor, right? It's like a razor kind of.
Yeah,
right?
It's like a razor, yeah.
Right. And then I said, well, I wonder if this electric one would be better and not nick the fabric. That's how the whole thing started. And so Joydy, I've seen them at Marshalls. I've also seen them at Burlington Coat Factory. And believe it or not, I have seen these, but they're more expensive at Joann's.
I wonder what they, you know, those little places that sells, it's a little shops that'll sell things that would normally be sold to beauty salons. I wonder if you went in there, they would have them in there for a cheap price.
Maybe. I mean, you know, when you buy something at Marshalls, it's always like half the price from like the other. So you can find these, you know, Walmart, any of the places. It's, you know, electric trimmer. But I mean, the cheapest I've seen is like at a Marshalls or a, you know, or a store like that. But Sally's is a good idea, Katie, because that's, I don't know, for us, it's Sally's Beauty Supply. They might have it.
I couldn't think of the name of it, but I know they're there everywhere. So I was wondering if it would be cheaper to find them there.
Yeah, I have no idea. You know what? This is the only one I have, but now you're making me wonder if I shouldn't have 2 or 3 of them. It's like third battery. It's on its 3rd battery. And the way the battery works is, how does the battery work? Oh, look, here it goes. It's one.
So it just takes one AAA.
One AAA. Yep. Now they sell in like quilt shops what looks to be like a men's razor, but it's fat and long. Have you seen those? And those are expensive. So I don't know. This is what I use. It cost me like $5 or $6. You might even be able to find it cheaper.
Yeah, that's something to look into for sure. Judy says that she's subscribed to your channel and will go back and watch your videos later.
Thank you, Judy.
And Judy also says that she saw those, she's seen them in Walmart.
Yep.
So yeah, you know those. I don't have one in here because they're in my sewing room, but the little things that Kimberly came out with that you could stick pins and things in, pencils, pins.
Oh yes, 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 yes.
Little what you call them? You can
I
find
have
those
one.
in the Health and Beauty 8 store too for way less than what they're selling for at all the quilt shops.
Yes, I have one, and it came in a subscription box, actually a fat quarter subscription box. So
Yeah.
yes, I've seen those at Marshall's as well, like right by these.
Yeah, isn't that funny? When I saw one at a Walmart or somewhere, I can't remember where I saw that. I'm like, these are just like the ones that are sold at fat quarter shop. Only they're way less than the one for from FQS.
I get a lot of my stuff also at Harbor Freight, like my magnetic retractable thing. I've got actually my magnetic pin bowl is from Harbor Freight, and it's just a stainless steel one, and that's the one I use in Puerto Rico.
Oh, cool.
Because those are like, I don't know, $250 or something. They're super cheap at Harbor Freight compared to if you bought one that's dipped in pink and looks beautiful at the quilt shop that costs you $20. But yeah.
Yep. I'm gonna hear a funny thing happen to me while I was in Jacksonville. I was driving when I got to Lake City. My daughter gave me the truck to drive, which used to belong to her grandpa. And the truck is probably, I don't know, 15, 16 years old, so it has very little mileage on it. And when we were in Jacksonville, it was that day when the entire state of Florida was covered in a fog. And the fog was so thick that I had turned my lights on manually. The truck hadn't told the truck to turn the lights on because, it thought it was still daylight, and it wasn't. And so we went to check into the hotel, and they completely forgot about those lights not being on auto. So we went to take all our stuff up to the room, and then I said, we should go to Walmart. Went back downstairs because we were going to go to Walmart, and I had killed the battery. It was so dead it wouldn't even unlock the electric lock. But the lady, I had called my daughter, and she told me, she says, "Did you go and ask the hotel if they have battery jumpers?" I was like, "No, I didn't. But let's go see what they got." Before they had to, come from Lake City to help, and they had a DeWalt in there. And she says, "I don't know how to use this thing, but and I don't even know if it's been charged or not, but you can try it, and if it works, then the day has been saved." I'm like, okay. So we went out there, and it cranked the truck. I had to give it a few minutes before it would crank it, but when it cranked it up, the first thing I did was flip that switch on the light so they wouldn't come back on again, without it automatically doing it anyway. And I'm like, I was so thankful because she had a DeWalt of all things.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we have some of those because we have a lot of property here, so I wouldn't say a ton. I mean, there's a lot of people who have a lot more, but we have all those things that need jumping every so often or plug in, or I don't know. We have it's good to have that. Yep. It's like a little thing that you handheld, right? And it's that
it's
yellow,
a little bit heavy.
Yeah.
But it's all, everything's in the machine, the cables, the whole everything.
Yeah.
There's this little switch, you flip the switch and you'll hear it beep, and it's telling you when it beeps to try to jump the car with it then. And after the third try, we got it cranked. So I was just, that saved us, calling somebody to come and jump us off.
Those things are great. I mean, because we have all kinds of things that have batteries, that need to be jumped around here. When you have young boys, they're not boys now, they're men, but they have their toys, their 4x4s, their ATVs, their motorcycle. I mean, you name it.
Joyce says she'll go to Marshall's tomorrow and check it out, and probably less there than Sally's too. She's gonna check out Sally's. Quilt Shop's always up price of everything.
They
Yes.
do.
And Joyce says, I love Harbor Freight. Okay,
That's
so
what
I know you got to run.
I
And
do. He's put on
thank you.
the meat.
Yep, it's 9:30 now. I thank you for coming to the So Long Live. You want to show them what you were working on before we cut out?
Well, I spent all my time talking.
Got done.
So much done. There's this that I ripped out, and I just started just doing the one little bit on the top.
Okay.
So
Okay.
not much done because I was enjoying you and listening to you read comments and.
Yep. Okay. So thank you for coming, and you guys, I'm going to go ahead and call it for a night. Thank you for coming to the live tonight, and I hope you enjoyed talking with Leana, sorry.
That's all right. So thank you for having me. I just want to say before you click out, thank you for having me. It was very delightful, and thank you for all of you who have attended, and I didn't see your comments. I thank you all for showing up, and don't forget to give Katie the thumbs up on your way out.
Yes, don't forget to do that. Pay the rent. All right, thank you, everyone. Remember to live, laugh, love, dream, and make sure you're creating something. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Your Zoom will stay on.
Okay. Yeah, I'm very. So now on Zoom, just out of curiosity, since it's just you